Evening, and welcome to the December 3rd, 2014 legislative session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Trustee Garrity?
Present.
Trustee Gazzano?
Present.
Trustee DeRio?
Present.
And Mayor Hanauer.
Present.
Do we have any mayor's trustees announcements?
We do. As many of you already know, Superintendent of Recreations and Parks, Henry Atterbury, will be retiring in January. Whereas we're sorry that Henry will leave us at such a young age, we are very pleased to announce the engagement of his replacement, Christopher Soy. Chris is currently the Assistant Superintendent of the Newcastle, Town of Newcastle Recreation and Parks Department. He's responsible for year-round recreation programs, a summer day camp with over 250 campers, and for assisting in the oversight of 9 town-owned parks, a community center, and an arts center. He previously served as recreation supervisor in Briarcliff Manor, lead instructor in the New York City Outward Bound Educational Center, and therapeutic recreational program coordinator at Green Chimneys Children's Services, a residential treatment center serving behaviorally challenged youth. He's certified as a park and recreation professional and a youth sports administrator by the National Recreation and Parks Association and the National Association of Youth Sports, respectively. Chris is a member of the Westchester Recreation and Park Society, the New York State Recreation and Park Society, and the National Recreation and Parks Association. He holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Brown University and a master's of science in recreation and leisure studies from the State University of New York at Cortland. We look forward to welcoming Chris. He is, I think, fully prepared to take this job on, so we're very excited about it. Last night, you may have been startled by a lot of fire truck sirens and horns and flashing lights beginning at around 9:15 p.m. Let me assure you that there was no emergency. It was the fire department's traditional celebration of the election of new fire chiefs. So I congratulate Chief Fire Engineer Matthew Scarduzio, First Assistant Engineer Angelo Manicchio, both of whom have moved up now from First Assistant and Second Assistant to those new positions, and brand new Second Assistant Chief Manuel de Cruz. The Baker Collier Christmas Cheer Fund has started to solicit contributions again for this year's drive. The funds go solely to purchase food for the holiday food baskets. Volunteers handle the administration of the fund, and members of the Ossining Volunteer Fire Department pack and deliver baskets of food. Last year, because of the generosity of Ossining residents and merchants, over 370 needy families in Ossining received sufficient food for a holiday dinner and leftovers. This year, the packing will take place, as usual, at A&P on Pleasantville Road on the evening of December 22nd, and baskets will be delivered the next morning on December 23rd. For more information or to contribute to this effort, please contact Baker Collier Cheer Fund, care of John Crawford, Chairman, Post Office Box 508, Ossining, New York, 10562, or call John at 914-438-9843. What else?
I'll offer folks. Try that again. Yes, I'll offer folks a quick reminder that you have an opportunity as a resident here in Ossining to find out about the efficiency of your home. If you visit ossining.energizeny.org, you can learn more about this program, and it's available to folks who own residential as well as commercial and properties and nonprofit organizations. A lot of great information about that, and it's getting chilly out there, so it'd be great to have lower fuel costs and to live in a more comfortable home. So I encourage you to visit ossining.energizeny.org. And I invite everyone to please join us at the library tomorrow night. That's Thursday, December 4th at 6:30 in the Bedars Theater. We're going to be screening a movie called Inequality for All. It's a documentary that is very funny as well as very informative. It talks about the increasing gap in income in our society today, and we have a very interesting panel of representing some different perspectives, and as always, I expect a very engaging conversation with community members who participate. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, December 4th, that's Thursday, in the Ossining Public Library Theater.
Anyone else?
We'll-
Tonight, the board will fulfill its primary duty and adopt the budget for the 2015 fiscal year. Once again this year, I'm very pleased to report that the financial condition of the village is healthy. We continue to have a strong fund balance, and the village has retained Moody's AA2 rating, which guarantees excellent interest rates on borrowing for capital projects. In fact, as low as 0.318% on short-term bond anticipation notes and 2.575% on true interest cost bonds over 20 years. By comparison, in 2013, it was 3.273%. In their independent audit of the village funds for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2013, the last one available, O'Connor Davies, LLP, found the village in excellent fiscal condition. In 2011, the state enacted a law that imposes on municipalities a cap on increases in the property tax levy of the lesser of 2% or consumer price index. But in most years since, the state mandates included double-digit increases in the village's pension contribution. The contribution rate for the 2015 calendar year is an exception, where the employer's contribution to the employee's retirement system decreased slightly from 20.48% of payroll in 2014 to 19.175% of payroll in 2015. And the employer's contribution to the police and fire retirement system decreased from 27.58% of payroll in 2014 to 25.35% of payroll in 2015. However, employers' contributions, retirement contributions remain high and total almost $3.25 million in the general fund, making up 9.5% of the total general fund. Employer contributions for health care, employee health care continue to rise dramatically, for 2015 by 9%. Also, high energy costs continue to stress the budget. Only with the adoption of a local law can the board override that cap if they feel it necessary, and then by a yea vote of no less than 60% of the trustees, which we did exceed the cap when we adopted the 2012 budget, and again when we adopted the 2014 budget. But the board's adopted budget for 2013 did not exceed the cap, and the adopted budget for 2015 is also, wait for it, below the cap. Until this year, despite adopting tax levies, the increase of which we believed were below the cap, on advice we were able to pass local laws allowing us to supersede the cap prior to adopting the budget in order to avoid any potential fine and interest should there be detected by a future state audit a mistake in our calculations and we had actually gone over it. I said until this year. This year, however, if we pass such a law, taxpayers would not receive the de minimis tax rebate promised by the governor and the state legislature, who, in cynical, politically expedient mandated that municipalities must provide the same or improved services with rising costs and increased state-mandated expenses while raising diminished resources, or cut back on those services and lay off the staff needed to accomplish the work. Yes, I did say that the tax increase would be below the cap. The 2015 total general fund budget will be $34,330,633. The tax levy of $21,185,438, or 1.49%, is $5,098 below the allowable cap of 1.51%. The tax rate increase is 1.073, which equates to $188.9107 per thousand of assessed value, and is below the 1.3% tax increase proposed in the tentative budget of a month ago. The reason the tax rate is higher than the tax levy, while remaining within the cap, is that the total taxable residential assessment on the village, on which the calculations are based, has increased by $455,442, or 0.41%, despite the continued large number of certiorari and small claims lawsuit settlements. The owner of an average residence with an assessment of $16,988 will pay an average of real property tax of $3,209.21, an increase of $34.06. As well as real property taxes, we rely on other revenue sources, including sales tax, mortgage tax, and fees. We were able to keep increases in appropriations to be raised by property taxes to a minimum in 2015. In 2014, certain departmental expenses were lower than projected. Other departmental revenues were higher than projected, especially in the Recreation Department's fees. Our department heads have been scrupulous in sticking within or below their budgets in 2014. In 2015, most departments will have little or no increase in operating budgets, and there will be no layoffs again this year. In fact, we recently replaced one employee who had retired, and we are about to replace another. And because of our new intermunicipal agreement to provide police protection to the unincorporated area of the town, we will soon be swearing in 5 more new police officers. Sales tax revenue is up and expected to continue to increase, and franchise fees and gross utilities tax income is again up slightly as well. All of these savings and increases to revenues allow us to make certain purchases in 2014 and were to have been made in 2015, such as 2 police cars for $90,000 to allow us to be ready to provide town police. The IMA provides town police services on January 1st, 2015. During the last 8 years, you have often heard me state my belief that municipal government's primary responsibility is to provide safety and security to the residents and merchants, and that safety and security, I believe, includes police protection, fire protection, ambulance service, and the maintenance and improvement of our infrastructure, including our reservoir and water filtration plant, our sanitary and stormwater sewers systems, our roads, and our sidewalks. In 2014, we completed the cement encasement of the exposed sewer main in the Sing Sing Kill, and in 2015, among other projects, we will continue the work of renovating the Indian Brook Reservoir Dam, as well as continuing the development of plans to expand the water filtration plant's capacity. Most fees are unchanged, except for some in the recreation fees for non-village residents. But because of the new recreation intermunicipal agreement with the town, rec ID cards for town outside residents will be the same as those for village residents for the very first time, with slight increases for both. But for residents of the village of Briarcliff Manor and for other non-residents, rec fees will increase more dramatically. Summer camp fees for children of village and town outside residents will not increase in 2015. Fees for parking at the Ossining Railroad Station will increase by 6.25%, the first increase in 3 years. Also increased are some building department fees. We will adopt the fee schedule this evening after we have adopted the budget. Water and sewer usage changes will rise about 5.67% in a composite rate in order to fund continued improvements in the quality, in the already excellent quality of our water and delivery systems and the corresponding sewer system. For village residents, water and sewer rates will increase to $7.10 per 100 cubic feet of water and to $1.835 for sewer when fully effective. And that's because we phase it in over a period of months. For residents outside the village, who only receive water service, rates will increase to $10.65 per 100 cubic feet when fully effective. Capital purchases have again also been kept to a bare minimum, but with an eye towards taking advantage of historically low interest rates. For instance, in 2015, we will purchase a 6-wheel dump truck for the Department of Public Works, a vehicle for the Recreation Superintendent, 3 vehicles for the Police Department, and a fire chief's vehicle. We will refurbish fire rescue truck R14 instead of purchasing a new fire rescue vehicle, thereby saving a lot of taxpayer money. In addition, we are planning to replace the roof at the John Paul Rodriguez Operations Center, make permanent the 2-way intersection improvements at the intersection of Main and Spring Streets, because that experiment has been a success, and make capital improvements at the Harbor Square Promenade Park and Ossining Dock through the New York State Private-Public Partnership Program grants. There are many people who have worked very hard on this budget, whom I should like to thank. Village Manager Richard Lyons and his staff for crafting and presenting this budget, an excellent bare-bones proposed tentative budget in November, and working with us throughout the month of November to refine it to this adopted budget. Village Treasurer Tom Warren, Deputy Treasurer Dale Ferrara, and their staff for their constant vigilance over village finances and their guidance, and for supplying us with all of the figures necessary to create our adopted budgets each year and the immediate updates as needed throughout the process. All department heads and their staffs for their hard work and hawk-eyed budgetary diligence throughout the year. I thank my colleagues for holding down expenses as much as possible while not significantly affecting our ability to provide services or endangering our infrastructure, our residents, or our merchants, and for agreeing to retain all current employees and continue to replace essential employees. And finally, I thank the residents and merchants of the village for their trust in our ability to act on their behalf again this year and to supply those services which they need. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Okay, we'll move on to administrative reports, and we'll begin with Village Manager Richard Lyons.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on a few of the resolutions on your agenda this evening. The first one I wanted to mention has been referred to by the mayor, and that is Resolution F. It's the authorization to execute the intermunicipal agreement for recreation and park rental administration, as well as a lease for the use of the community center. It's for the town nutrition program. This particular resolution represents a lot of work by the IMA committee that met to sort of fine-tune the existing IMA between the town and the village, and it represents a reformation of the existing agreement to reflect what's going to be the shared use of the village facilities by the town outside residents and the village residents. Also, for the first time, there is a lease now to be in place for the town nutrition program that uses part of the facility. It's part of the upgrading and updating of agreements to reflect changed realities. This particular IMA was sort of an icebreaker and a groundbreaker, if you will, for cooperation between the town and the village, and we're really happy that we've been able to negotiate it to an amicable resolution by both parties. Resolution G and H are standard resolutions authorizing the manager to sign continuation of contract for employee dental insurance, and H is a resolution authorizing the extension and the payment of terms on the lease with the steamer company for part of their facility on Main Street. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Corporation Counsel, Lori Lee Dixon.
Thank you. I wanted to call your attention to item L on your agenda this evening. It was brought to our attention late this afternoon by the developer that based upon some reorganization of lots at the property, that there's going to be a minor change in the section block and lot notation. So you have in front of you a reference to lots 17, 19, 21, and 68, when in fact, based upon reorganization after the project changed from condominiums to rentals, it's going to be lots 17, 18, and 68. So you'll eliminate lots 19 and 21, and combine that becomes lot 18. So if you're going to vote this evening in the affirmative on this, it'll be with that revision. This is the culmination of a review by the village board for the issuance of the special use permit, because it's in the planned waterfront special permit district. You can see I've set out the process, trying to give the pertinent dates as the project has moved through the process. With the completion of this approval this evening, the developer will be returning back to the planning board for the appropriate site plan review and approvals. That would be the last step in that process. The Environmental Advisory Council has seen it, the Historical Commission has seen it, and also the Zoning Board granted an affirmative variance for the extra story that goes below because of the slope of the land. It's not a height variance, it's a variance for a story below. So this process has culminated into this evening's resolution, and you can see it's pretty comprehensive. So item M is the adoption of your local law number 5. This was introductory local law number 6, which now has become actual local law number 5 for purposes of keeping track, and for those of you keeping score at home. This is an amendment to Chapter 68, Alcoholic Beverages. This is a collaborative effort with your local community police officer, Mayorana. This came to my desk as a request from him through your downtown manager's office. So this is an example of collaborative efforts with the law department and the Corporation Council assisting the village police with enforcement through their efforts with enforcement under the alcoholic beverages provision. They had asked for the prohibitive conduct to be made clear and precise, so it made it easier for enforcement. So this approval tonight will change the language, and we can send it up. And as soon as it's filed and we get a receipt of filing, and the clerk is always so kind to keep me informed of that, I'll let the chief know, and we can start to enforce this on the books. Thank you.
We'll move on to organizational announcements. Is there anyone that has any organizational announcements?
Evening, Mr. Mayor and Board. How are you? My name is Matthew Galata. I'm here tonight representing the Ossining Rotary Club. I was here last month, and we had a great Byington dinner for the Ossining High School students who raised quite a bit of money, and that's all going to be going towards the scholarships. So tonight I'm here because it was such a good success to be standing here and talking last month about our Ossining Holiday Party, which will be held on December 11th at 6 to 10 at the Doubletree in Terrytown. Mr. Friedman is a fellow Rotarian, Elmsford, and he's giving us a great deal. And the portions of anything we make are going to be used for the scholarships of Ossining High School also. So we're going to have food, dancing, desserts, coffee, fellowship. So please, if you can, bring a friend and come join us on December 11th from 6 to 10 in Terrytown at the Doubletree. And if you need to get a hold of any of us, John Crawford, our president, his email is johngcrawford@aol.com, and we're looking forward to seeing as many as you can. Thank you very much.
You.
Mr. Galata, what is the fee for that, please?
It's going to be $45 per person,
Thank you.
and that includes desserts, coffee, fruit, meals, everything, and there will be a cash bar available.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, then we'll move on to Village Board resolutions. Is there anyone that would like to comment on any of the resolutions?
Bobby? Bruce?
Okay. We will then move on to the adoption. Resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the November 19th, 2014 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second. Board? Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated December 3rd, 2014 in the amount of $445,347.45.
So moved.
Second?
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining has received from the Town Assessor for the year 2015 a combined total assessment of real property and special franchise properties with a valuation of $112,145,277. And whereas the Board of Trustees received the tentative budget on November 5th, 2014 in accordance with Section C4-3 of the Village Charter and has since amended same after having held a public hearing and giving further consideration to requests and recommendations of all department heads. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining does hereby adopt the budget of the Village of Ossining for the fiscal year 2015, showing that there be levied and assessed upon the sum of taxable and special franchise properties of the Village of Ossining as hereinbefore listed, the sum of $21,185,438 to be raised by real property tax levy, which sum is more completely set forth in the budget for the Village of Ossining. And be it further resolved that the tax rate rounded to the nearest penny, and the same hereby is affixed at $188.9107 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the following water fund for the calendar year 2015. We have the attachments at the back of the room for anyone who would like them. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the following sewer fund for the calendar year 2015. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the following capital plan for the calendar year 2015. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the following Section 8 fund for the calendar year 2015, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize the following debt service fund for the calendar year 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that pursuant to Section 126-1 of the Code of the Village of Ossining, the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the fee schedule for the year 2015 as annexed hereto and made part hereof. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas the Village of Ossining ceased being a tax assessing unit in 1989 and now adopts the Town of Ossining assessment roll as prepared by the assessor of the Town of Ossining for all subsequent years, and where certain tax certiorari proceedings were instituted against the Town of Ossining by Erstad Biddle Properties, Inc., to review the assessment against petitioner's property situated at South Highland Avenue and designated as Section 97.19, Block 1, Lot 40, for the assessment years 2005 through 2007 taxes, which said proceedings were recently concluded in the Westchester County Supreme Court under index numbers 05-18412, 06-18652, and 07-18876. And whereas a consent judgment entered in favor of the petitioner, among other things, directs the Village of Ossining to audit and pay to the petitioner the amount of overpayment of real estate taxes determined in accordance with the assessments fixed and determined by said judgment in the amount of $59,040.85 as set forth in Schedule A. And whereas any and all refunds of taxes necessitated by said judgment are to be made without interest if paid within 60 days after service upon the village of a certified copy of said judgment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, upon certification of the village treasurer that all of the aforesaid taxes have been paid, hereby authorizes and directs the village treasurer to make the payment of such refund of real property taxes due to petitioner to Griffin, Coogan, Sulzer, and Horgan, P.C., attorneys as required by said judgment. And it is further resolved that the village treasurer shall make a notation in the margin of the assessment rolls of the Village of Ossining that said assessments were reduced and payment of a refund of the overpayment of the real property taxes were made pursuant to said judgment. And again, that's $59,040.85. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the village manager of the Village of Ossining is hereby authorized to execute an intermunicipal agreement and a lease with the Town of Ossining, both having a term effective January 1, 2015 through December 31st, 2015, for 1, the village to provide recreation programming to the town and town park rental administration in accordance with said IMA, and 2, the use of space at the community center to accommodate the town's nutrition program, both documents being subject to review and approval by Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that the village manager of the Village of Ossining is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with Delta Dental of New York, Inc., 575 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, subject to review and approval by the Corporation Council for employee dental insurance effective January 1, 2015 through December 31st, 2016, to include both single and family coverage rates and administrative fee per employee for each month of the 2-year term. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby authorizes the village manager to enter into a lease agreement with Steamer Company, Inc., P.O. Box 747, Ossining, New York, for a 2-year term to expire March 31st, 2016, for rental by the village of a portion of the premises located at 177 Main Street, Ossining. Such lease agreement being subject to review and approval by the Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
Second. Board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the Village Board of Trustees accepts 2 grants aggregating $5,623 from the Ossining Community Cares Program for Police Department alcohol compliance checks and for reimbursement of New York State Police Juvenile Officers Association training expenses, and modifies the 2014 general fund budget to appropriate such monies received as follows. Increased general fund appropriation, account number 00131200101, Police Department overtime, $3,515. Account number 00131200406, Police Department office and miscellaneous expenses, $200. Account number 00131200452, Police Department office and miscellaneous expenses of $1,908 for a total general fund appropriation of $5,623. Increased general fund estimated revenues, account number 001-0001-1589, other public safety department income, $5,623. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas a change order is requested in the amount of $60,400 for additional work required for the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant Generator Capital Project to be funded by use of appropriated fund balance in the Water Fund, now therefore be resolved, the village manager is authorized to approve the change order for such additional work through approval of a purchase order supported by the appropriate change order documentation approved by the project's engineer and Department of Public Works. And be it further resolved, the capital project budget for the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant generator is modified as follows. Increased water fund appropriation, account number 002-9550-0851, transfer to capital project funds, $60,400. Increased water fund appropriated fund balance, 002-0002-0599, appropriated fund balance, $60,400. Increased capital projects fund appropriations, account number 505-8330-2143, water purification, Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant generator, $60,400. Increased capital projects fund estimated revenues, account number 505-05-5032-0143, interfund transfers from water fund, Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant generator, $60,400. Project number 2143, Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant generator, current budget $897,500, amended budget $957,900. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Second. Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Fire Chief, Vincent Conklin Jr. of Ossining was elected an active member of the Cataract Hose Company No. 2 for interior firefighting at their regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Board? Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas at a duly convened public meeting on May 18th, 2010, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining acknowledged receipt of an application from Ossining Land LLC concerning property located at 34 State Street, Village of Ossining, New York, having the tax designation of Section 97.07, Block 2, Lots 17, 18, and 68 for the project known as Hudson Step. And whereas by submission of said application to the Village Board, the applicant sought approval for a planned waterfront special permit as referenced in Section 270-23I of the Code of the Village of Ossining, and simultaneously the applicant filed an application for site development plan approval from the Planning Board as required by Section 270-54 of the Village Code. And whereas by resolution dated May 18, 2010, the Board referred the matter to the Planning Board in accordance with the requirements, Section 270-54 of the Village Code, for a recommendation concerning the planned waterfront special permit. Whereas on October 28, 2014, following all requisite proceedings duly conducted before the Planning Board, which included a thorough analysis of the proposed project under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the CEQA findings and a positive recommendation for approval of the special permit were forwarded by the Planning Board to the Village Board. And whereas pursuant to Section 239 of the New York State General Municipal Law, the application was also referred to the Westchester County Planning Board for their review and comments. And whereas a duly advertised public hearing was conducted by the Village Board on November 19, 2014, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity, and whereas on November 25, 2014, at a duly convened public meeting, the Village Board engaged in deliberations concerning the request by the applicant and determined that there was no impediments to approving said planned waterfront special permit. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1. The village board hereby acknowledges and concurs with the CEQA findings dated October 28, 2014, and hereby approves the applicant's request for a planned waterfront special permit for the project known as Hudson Step on property located at 34 State Street, having a tax designation of Section 97.07, Block 2, Lots 17, 18, and 68. And 2, in accordance with the Village Code Section 270-54F, this approval will expire after 18 months unless a building permit has been submitted, issued, or an extension is duly obtained by the applicant in accordance with the requirements of the Village Code. And 3, this resolution shall constitute the decision of the Village Board, which shall be filed in the office of the Village Clerk, and a copy provided to the applicant in accordance with the requirements of Section 270-54D, who may thereafter proceed with the site development plan approval process before the Planning Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining has been considering the adoption of a proposed local law entitled Amendment to Chapter 68, Alcoholic Beverages, which law would amend Chapter 68 of the Code of the Village of Ossining to clarify the definition of the prohibited behavior. And whereas in accordance with New York State law and after having provided all requisite notice, the Board of Trustees conducted a public hearing on introductory local law number 6, 2014, entitled Amendment to Chapter 68, Alcoholic Beverages, on November 19, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, during which hearing the public had an opportunity to be heard on such proposed local law. And whereas the matter was the topic of further discussion and deliberation at a public meeting on November 25th, following which the board determined there was no impediments to proceeding with adoption of the local law as drafted and designated it local law number 5, 2014. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts introductory local law number 6 as local law number 5, 2014, entitled Amendment to Chapter 68, Alcoholic Beverages, with such adoption to take effect as set forth in said local law and as otherwise required by law. And be it further resolved that the Village Board directs that local law number 5, 2014, jumping ahead here, entitled Amendment to Chapter 68, Alcoholic Beverages, be filed and or distributed in accordance with the applicable law. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the board? Madam Clerk?
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Trustee Garrity?
Aye.
Trustee Cazada?
Aye.
Trustee DeRio?
Aye.
And Mayor Hanauer.
Aye.
Thank you. That completes your resolutions for this evening. Do we have any continuing business of the board?
Not that I know of.
Do we have any new business of the board?
Nope.
Might we then entertain a recess unless we have visitors who would like to speak or address the board? Okay.
Recess first.
Go to recess, then you gotta talk.
Do I have a motion to recess?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This represents the end of tonight's televised portion of tonight's agenda. Have a great week. We will see you again next week at the work session at Village Hall in 16 Croton Avenue, 7:30 on Wednesday evening. Have a good week.